Sinuji has done two things. One is she's put me last. So here, in this day, in the age of Twitter, with what 280 characters, that's our attention span, and here she asked me to talk for 30 minutes. So that's one thing. And the other, if you look at the title, it says Women and Sabarimala, and here's a man talking, right?
Man who guided me to this.
Unconsciously perhaps, but I'm sharing the stage here with three women. So look what happened. Just here, we some of us smiled, some of us actually giggled and laughed. And you know what happens when we giggle and laugh? Our neck and back muscles, they stretch. And you know what happens when they stretch? They go down to the kidneys, right? And then they pull on the adrenaline glands. And we get micro doses of adrenaline. That's what gives us pleasure. That's why we like to laugh, a belly laugh. So this was in the mid-90s. I was doing a consulting assignment in Salt Lake City, Utah. Okay, that's the capital of Utah. That's where Mormon religion came together. And here were a bunch of Mormon men mostly, with whom I was working and I was guiding them. And we used to go late into the night. And of course, I was an exotic man from India. First of all, the way I was introduced to them by the chairman of this company for whom we were doing the consulting assignment was, hey, Jay, they used to call me Jay. And they said, now that Jay is here, we can't any longer say holy cow. Yeah, we can't say holy cow. Why is that? So my response was, absolutely no problem. We don't believe American cows are holy, so go ahead. So what's happening here? You all laugh, right? A little bit of pleasure, a little bit of microdosing on adrenaline. So every evening when we used to work late into the night on an assignment, I used to get these people to say, okay, let's get up and do some Hastya yoga. Just belly full of laugh. You do a belly laugh and you actually feel better for it. How did we come to that? As Sinuji said, our ancestors actually observed things. They observed things that happened. They came up with heuristics. They came up with rules, right? They tested the hypotheses. And then they said, if you do this, this is what will happen. Right? And you know what that is? These days it is came packaged from Europe, and they claimed it, that was their scientific method. You know what it is? Humans do it. That's what humans are capable of. They do problem solving, right? What's the big deal? All over the world, cultures have been doing that. They've been coming up with heuristics, rules of thumb. And you know what? Science, that they talk of scientific method, every 3 years they change. And they said, that is science, we change. Because they're rules of thumb. We get more observations, we change, right? So to the question, is what we do more scientific or not? Of course it's science. As long as human beings solve problems, it's science. Now, Sinuji's book is very important. Yeah. So, because it gives a different perspective to a problem that has come about. What I'm going to do today is, very selfishly, posit a problem. Now, you may accept that is the problem or not, but I'm going to say that's the problem, and then I'm going to show how I'm going to solve it. Okay? That's what authors do, right? They set up a problem and then try to solve it. So just suspend your disbelief, accept that what I say is the problem, and see how I come up with a solution to it, and let's see what happens. What Sinuji's book does is it provides us a platform, it provides us a way of talking, of starting conversations, right? Of a much bigger thing that I see that's happening. So why is it today, in this day and age, we have to come forward and write books like this, Women and Sabarimala. Why do we have to do that? That is the problem I see. And the problem is these confusing controversies that have kept coming up in India is because, as I see it, we live in an intellectual haze. We live in an intellectual haze. That haze is, on the one hand, we have cut off ourselves from our cultural traditions, this cultural knowledge that we have gained over thousands of years of work that our ancestors have done, right? That has been cut off on one hand. And on the other hand, yes, the Europeans did come up with a way of looking at the world. And you know what that was? That so-called European Enlightenment? It was birthed in extreme violence from 13th to about 15th century. Extreme violence. And by the 16th century, they came up with a solution. And the solution was the civil war, etc., can be overcome by simply saying, from now on, we'll consider nature as inert. Nature as inert. Those are the very words. We'll consider nature as inert. We don't any longer need anything beyond the material. What was born was a materialist world. That materialist world has spawned three kinds of deaths, which we are all experiencing at the moment. Ecocide. We have killed nature over the last 400 years, and we are doing so every day now. All of us, we are killing nature. We are disconnected from nature, and we are killing nature. Ecocide. Okay? The second is fratricide. I don't want to call it genocide, because in the Devi size, we are all brothers and sisters. It is, we kill each other. We kill each other's brothers and sisters. Not just physically. Huh? We kill each other by demeaning each other. Right? When the Europeans come and say, you people are superstitious, right? They're dominating over us. That's all they're doing. Right? When Hegel started it all by saying, from now on, the only knowledge in the world that counts is European knowledge. The Asiatic knowledge is despotic, superstitious, it's ignorant. And that is deeply in our brains. So that's where the haze comes from. And once you have that haze, you're confused. You don't know how to act, which is what you see on the roads every day here, on the way your actions take place, the architecture that comes out of it, the urban architecture, the rural architecture, right? It's dysfunctional because our minds are dysfunctional. In that haze between mimicking the West, because it was not our own experience, right? The European Enlightenment did not come out organically out of our own experience. That was not our yajna. What we're simply doing is mindlessly mimicking the West every step of the way, every day. And on the other hand, we have some threads from the past left over, which we try to catch hold of. And in the process, we mimic that also. When some Shastra is said, that some Shastrajna says something, we think that is it. There is no challenging that is done. If you look at, over a period of time, how things came about, if you look at the Mahabharata, if you read the Mahabharata, you will see there was a change. There were conversations, there were challenges that were made. We no longer make those challenges. And if we don't make those challenges, we cannot innovate. And by mimicking the West and taking our Shastras as the last word, we have lost our ability to innovate. Yeah? And that's what we see in our society. We wait for something to come up. Look at 5G. Why are we dealing or looking at China or Sweden while even Vietnam says it can do 5G? Because we are used to mimicking. Now, how do we overcome this? We have methods to overcome it. within our traditions. So what I'm doing now is trying to look at it from a meta perspective. We have methods and tools to intellectually change ourselves. Those methods and tools. Let's start with Vedanta. Vedanta talks about how to interact with any articulated statement, any text, any oral text. How do you do it? Mananam, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Read this book, contemplate on it, see what you take away, and make it an integral part of your daily life. So that is what you do. That's the how of it. The second part of it is, what is it that you want to do? There are three things that you take away. So if you go back and read Madhvacharya's work, he went all around, and this has been happening. This was in 14th and 15th century, right? When we were under the rule of another invader, he went around the country, put together different versions of Mahabharata, and he said, how am I going to look at it? When he looked at it, he talked about there are three takeaways we need to have. We need to take away the itihasa, what happened here, the description of what happened here. And Sinuji has done that. Sinuji has actually described what happened when she went to the different temples. Itihasa. The second is dharma. What is the interpretation of what happened? What does it mean in ethical terms, and how I can integrate it into what I am doing in my daily life? That is the dharma, the ethics of it. And that is embedded in that through the Sabarimala pilgrimage. The Sabarimala pilgrimage actually brings you the ethical learnings. It makes you more ethical. We'll talk about why that is so and how that is so. And from that, as she said, we go to the moksha dham, which is adhyatma. So all three things, any articulation that you do, anything that you hear, you have to analyze it or look at it from these three perspectives. And how do you do it? That is also given. Right? So it is not that anything is mystical or mysterious. Those methods are there, those tools are there, and we can start using. Now, let me give you a very specific example of this book itself. Okay, in this book, we can open it up, we can read that book from the perspective of the story she has given, Siddharji has given on her visits to each of those temples. You can yourself look at it and say, what is my takeaway from it? Okay, what are the implications I'm going to take away, and how am I going to integrate it into my life? Then it becomes your pilgrimage too. It becomes your way of living your life too. And that is the shift we would all have to make individually and collectively to get out of this haze, this confusion. It's not going to go away easily. Right? It's not a question of electing one political party. Yes, it is a question of a cultural revolution that we have to do ourselves, within ourselves and collectively as well. And so, the reason why is that so difficult? You have heard so many gurus talk to you about this. It's nothing new, because the background in which these methods and tools become efficacious, become effective, is a different background from the materialist background that we have become so enamored with, so used to. You know what? The European Enlightenment, the materialist background, enables the activation of only three chakras. The Muladhara chakra, the Swadhisthana chakra, and then it stops at the Manipura chakra. It teaches you and it activates in you impulses to acquire material wealth, to acquire and consume material stuff. Right? And it's not moksha that you're looking at. You want to become a billionaire too, or a trillionaire these days, right? So that is where all your energies are focused. You don't see the background beyond the material. When I do my study groups, when I do my workshops, I say to them, the materialists, you have lobotomized yourselves. You are not humans, you are half humans. You live at this level, right? How do we get out of it? What is the background that we have? We have to bring that background to the fore and live with it. So, the theoretical background that we have, there are many of them. But let me talk about one such, okay, to give you an illustration and an example. We say, what is the human manifestation? It's not a materialist manifestation, one more step in the evolution. We say there is something called the Sthula Sharira, the Sukshma Sharira, and the Antakarana. Yeah? The Sthula Sharira is sense-based. The Sthula Sharira is sense-based. It is what we experience through our senses. We think it is physical, it's actually the senses are experiencing it, and that's the physical. The Sukshma Sharira is the vibrational body. The vibrational body, which has the capability of you, each one of you, feel pain and pleasure, memory, right? And the ability to model. It models, it has the ability to model all the sense experience that you have had. And it creates reality, and then we act upon that reality. And the Antakarana is where the Devatas connect, the Devi Shaktis connect, and the Devi Shaktis connect through Chakras in the Sukshma Sharir. Through the Chakras in the Sukshma Sharir, to the extent we open the doors, those energies will flow, that activation will happen, and your Sthula Sharir will act in that particular way and become channels for those Devi Shaktis. Unfortunately, in the Sukshma Sharir are embedded the ignorances that we have absorbed. The doors to the chakras are closed. Only few openings. The first 3 chakras are open, and that's what you see. Now, we talked about architecture, temple architecture. The energies that flow through us, through the Sukshma Sharira, into the Sthula Sharira, they are projected out into the world. We actually build the architectures that's embedded and acted out through our Sukshma Sharira and through the Sthula Sharira, the sensate world, which is why you see the architecture around us is very different. You will start seeing a different kind of architecture emanating around us. The temple architectures that we saw, it's not just the Shastras, it has to be the people who naturally project that, right? Now, so what do we do with all this? Each one of us, when you go away and think about it as a start of a pilgrimage. It's a pilgrimage from the Mooladhara Chakra up for each of you to take away and say, how am I going to change my life from today onwards? Not only for myself, but also collectively. Small ways, but it's very important. As I said to someone before, who was that? About cleaning up the lakes in Bangalore. Someone here? Did I talk with someone here? Where is he? Yeah, look at him hiding there. So lakes, you want to clean up lakes? It's not a matter of engineering. You know what water is? Not only are we 70% water, 78% did you say? Water has the most prana. Pure water has the most prana. That's why we need that water in ourselves. It's all over the place. The more polluted the water gets, the lower energy you have around you, the more dysfunction you have around you. It's that perspective. It's not merely a perspective of whether you're going to clean up, materially clean up, because you have certain incentives, because of corporate social responsibility. Bring those lakes alive in poetry, bring those lakes alive in art, right? Those lakes have a history. What was that lake like 500 years ago? Do you notice that the Mahabharata talks about the rivers, right? Talks about where Ganga came from. Because it is the prana that is flowing. But as part of our ecocide mission, what have we done to it? And what are we doing to it? It's those kinds of things. If you make that cognitive shift of what we are, that we are indeed the sthula sharira, the sukshma sharira, the antakarana opening up, then we'll start making changes. Until then, we'll have these controversies, these confusions, and these challenges supposedly that always do Hindus practice science or superstitions? Okay. Thank you for